Moving on to, you spoke there about the new Ben White injury. I want to look at that in a bit more depth because when I looked at Arteta's quotes last night, I was honestly a bit taken aback that Ben White was out because obviously Gabby, Kai, Bakayo, Martin, we all thought that was, obvious. But then Ben White, as you said, back on the bench against Forest, trained ahead of the game. He didn't play any minutes, but we thought, okay, he's recovered from that knock, and now he's out again. And you just described it in that previous section as a new minor issue. So it's not really a case of just his minutes being managed. He has actually picked up something else. And how big of a concern is that for, firstly, us Arsenal fans? Because, since he's had that knee operation, I think this is like his third or fourth knock. So is this like a real concern for us?
It is. It really, really is. Like I said, because of the sheer amount of minutes that Jurien Timber is having to play at the moment and had to play last season, eventually that he broke down last season because of that. And I think when you saw the start of this season, Ben White training from the start, but you're just like, oh, this is so nice to have that option. The two of them, you can just rotate 60 minutes one week, 60 minutes another week, bring the other one on for 30 minutes, just rotate. You got two players, yes, different in terms of how they play, but real high quality on the right hand side. To not have Ben White available, and again, Arsenal are just saying this is a minor issue. They're not saying what it is, or I certainly haven't been told what it is, just a minor issue. So hopefully it's just a small one, but it's just another game where he's not available and that Jurien Timber is going to have to play, you would think, really. And that's what the real sort of concern is here. Yes, there's a concern for Ben White's fitness, but it's also, in my mind, my major concern is it's also a big one for Jurien Timber. And if Arsenal lose Jurien Timber and if Ben White's not there to cover, then suddenly you're into that position of what we're going to do. We're going to play a centre back at right back type situation. So they need to find a way of keeping Ben White fit. I know it's easier said than done. And when you're not a medical person like we are, you can say, oh, you've got to find a way of keeping him fit. But it is a concern. And I think it'll be a growing concern behind the scenes at Arsenal for someone like Mikel Arteta, who puts so much emphasis on availability and is just so keen on having players who are available that to see the issues that Ben White's I'm sure Mikel's going to be looking at that and thinking, how long can this kind of continue? And I'm not sitting here saying now Ben White's going to get sold because of this, but if he has another season this season like last season, Arsenal are going to have a big decision to make when it comes to the right back situation because he can't carry on like this. So hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully it's a small injury. Hopefully they just thought, you know what, we're not going to put him on a plane, put those air miles in him. We're just going to keep him back at London Colney working. He'll be fine for the weekend. And then we'll see him fit for the rest of the season. But it is a concern. It was my first thought, like you, when I saw that quote, I was like, what? He was fine. I was, when I was doing my post-match video at the weekend in the press box, I was watching him with the substitutes doing the sort of the warm down stuff. And to pick up another issue so soon, yeah, it is a concern.
Yeah, certainly is a concern, and like you say, a surprising concern. And I think especially more worrying because like you say, the alternatives there. Arsenal terminated Tomiyasu's contract; he couldn't shake off his perpetual injury concerns, so it is pretty much just Timber holding the fort there. Mosquera can play there, as you said, but he's been so good at centre back recently. You don't really want to move him there if you can help it. And in terms of like emergency alternatives, I spoke to Nigel Winterburn recently, and he suggested that even Miles Lewis Skelly could be trialled at right back. Of course, he's not getting into the team right now because Calafiori is playing so well. We know he came through as a defensive midfielder at Hale End. He can invert into those positions, I guess, maybe from left back or even right back. Is that a viable solution in your eyes?
It's a possible solution. Whether it's viable, I don't really know. I've never seen him play at right back. So look, he's a very good footballer. The way he's taken from being moved to a centre back to left back with such ease shows he's more than capable and playing in different positions that he's not used to. I'm sure if you ask Miles Skelly, do you want to play at right back? His answer would probably be no, thanks. I'm good where I am. But I mean, he is a possible solution. I think we did see Calafiori play at right back a couple of times last season when he had to, but that's the sort of thing you don't really want to be turning to, do you? I think Mosquera is definitely the third option. If there's no Timber, there's no White, then I think Mosquera will definitely be that third option, that kind of Thomas Partey option that he was last season in that makeshift right back role. But yeah, then you get down to the options that you don't really want to be considering, and that's why I think Ben White's injury is such a concern because you just don't want to be thinking about who can we shift over to cover in that position. It's just yeah, it's not great. It's not great thinking about those prospects.
Looking at those other emergency options, I think you might have to correct me. I think I'm right in saying that Josh Nichols is still at the club. He wasn't loaned out, was he, this summer?
No, no, he's still there.
He's still there, yeah. And of course, so he's been, I think he played in that Bolton EFL Cup game last season. I can't recall any others he played in. And looking at, I think him and Lewis Skelly and there's the women's player, Kira Cooney-Cross, they're quite close, those two. They had a training camp in the summer. And I think Cooney-Cross said that Nichols is one of the best 1v1 defenders that she's actually ever come up against. Is he ready, do you think? I mean, could we see more of him if push comes to shove?
I mean, Mikel was asked about him in a press conference a couple of weeks ago, and the kind of answer that he gave was like, obviously he's a good player and all that sort of stuff. He is around, but it didn't sound like an answer from someone who really believed that he was an option at the moment. He played well in that game against Bolton. We'd seen him in pre-season as well at times, and he looks like a tidy player. But um, I just didn't get the impression from the answer Mikel gave about him that he really sort of considered him as a viable option at this stage. And it'd be a big ask throwing him in. I'm surprised he didn't go on loan this summer. I have to say, I thought this was a perfect summer that he would go out and try and get some experience and at senior football. But so I don't know. I'd be surprised if that was an avenue Arsenal went down with him at this stage.
Interesting stuff, yeah. And looking now just briefly at the Martin Odegaard injury, it's his second shoulder injury in 3 games, which is absolutely rotten luck for him. I mean, it was a bit of a freak instant. I think, yeah, Timber and Gibbs White were going in for the tackle. Odegaard was just there. He got flung up into the air, landed awkwardly. But Mikel did say it is the same shoulder he injured against Leeds. And as you said in the Ben White section, we are not medical, either one of us. But is there concern from you that there could be like a weakness in that joint, or is it just sheer unfortunate coincidence?
Is there concern for me? Yes, there absolutely is because for that to happen twice, it's just like you said, it's such an unlucky coincidence. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It was right in front of me, and immediately went down. I was like, he's landed on his shoulder again. And then you saw the replay, and it's like, oh my god! And the whole thing was deja vu, wasn't it? He got up, tried to play on, couldn't, went off. When Airy comes on, it was just for 2 home games in a row. And when does that happen? Something like that happen. It's just rotten luck. Really, really unfortunate. But yeah, it was a concern, the fact he couldn't carry on. I was reading his program notes before the game started in the press room, and he was saying, I'm totally injury pain free from it. I'm fine now. I went away with Norway. It was fine. I'm not feeling it at all. And then to go and do it again, it's like, well, how can that happen? Mikel again, and I'm going by the way his mannerisms after the game when he was asked about it, he didn't sound overly concerned like this is going to lead to surgery or anything like that. But, from, like you said, people who don't know too much about sort of medical stuff behind it, you look at it and think it's twice in a row. Is there something going on there that he's going to need to get fixed? It is tough to say at the moment, and we know very, very little about it. And to be honest, I've not heard yet in terms of how Arsenal view the injury and whether they believe it's not a bad one or anything like that. So I think we've all just got to sort of sit here, fingers crossed at the moment that he comes back relatively quickly like he did last time.